Hello everyone, this is Tabletop Warrior here coming to you from the Command Center. And as promised to all my viewers, today's video is going to be a comparison of GMT's Command and Colors Samurai Battles and Samurai Battles, the historical war game, which is also a Command and Colors and features the Art of Tactic variant set of rules. Now I actually purchased this one first. That's how I got into the Command and Colors Samurai Battles, and then eventually I was just like most of my viewers, I was looking forward to the GMT release, and now I have both, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of share with my viewers kind of the comparisons between the two versions. And if you've never played the Samurai Battles, this is actually going to cover a little more of the rule set. So what I've done first, just to give everybody kind of heads up, I've laid everything out from starting with the Command and Color Samurai Battles from GMT. I laid out all the tiles, all the separate tiles I kind of laid out right there. And then I've got the dice, the honor and fortune, the victory tokens, the rule book, the two sets of cards, and then I also laid out one entire army. So as you can see, this is everything that you get for one army. So if you're looking at both, just multiply that by 2, and that's what you're going to get on the Command and Colors GMT version. The Samurai Battles, I did the same thing. Laid out the honor and fortune markers, the die. These are 20-sided die that are used for the Art of Tactic variant, which I'll go into a little more detail in a few minutes. These are the these are the Art of Tactic cards, the Command and Colors cards for the Command and Colors variant, the Dragon cards. This version also comes with 2 markers, which I'll talk about later. And then for the Art of Tactic version of the game, I put each sample unit in its actual case base with its respective flag, and then behind it I laid out the units separated by type if you're playing the Command and Colors variant. So this is one entire army right here. And then I put in display here the rest of the tiles so we can kind of compare the differences. The basis, here's a couple of more items. It does come with the spare flags, because I'll talk about these in a minute. They do break. And then if you really want to get creative, you can put the 2 separate types of identifiers on the actual colored flags. It also includes morale and different types of chips, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then these are really neat terrain spacers that you can actually add elevation to the terrain if you really wanted to give it that 3D look. And then of course all the manuals and the books that come with it. So let's go ahead and get started. So real quick, for my viewers, if you're looking for if you want a video that's more focused on Command and Colors GMT, I suggest you just go ahead and just look at my previous video. It goes into very depth, and I cover very in depth the components of the entire military, of the entire GMT version. But real quick, before I get started, real quick, I know some of y'all just want me to get straight to the point, so I'll give you the major differences. First of all, Command and Colors GMT version, it's simple. Simplicity. It's simple, but not overly simple. It's got some really neat rules on it, and it's easy for anybody to learn. If you're looking for an introduction war game, this is definitely the one that I would recommend. The rules are simple. The Dragon cards add a very neat variant, and they add a specific flavor to the game, in which you really have to manage your honor and fortune. And they really give you some really neat options as far as combat capabilities are concerned. So that's really cool about that. And then of course, the best thing about the GMT version is the fact that you get all of these armies. So for example, right here, if you're looking at the Samurai Cavalry, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Samurai Cavalry, and then you get 4 Samurai Longbow Cavalry, and then you get 5 Heavy Samurai Spearmen, and then you get 3 additional Samurai Bowmen, and then you get Spearmen Infantry. You get 3, 6, 8, and then here's some. You get 4 sets of archers, 4 sets of those infantry with the weapons, and then here you get 3 sets of peasants, and then you get as far as cavalry leaders, you get 1, 2, 3. You get 5 of those, and 6 of the samurai leaders, and then of course 1 general, and the 4 bodyguards. So that right there is a lot of troops, right? Instead of the other version, the version that was published by Zvezda, if I'm saying that correctly, this is all the army you get. Starting with the cavalry, this is it. You're looking at it. That's it. You get 4 cavalry units. That's all the cavalry you get. And then you get 2 cavalry leaders. You only get 1 of the ones that with the pistols. You only get 1 of that. You get 2 of the bow units. You get 6 samurai leaders. You get 2 of these heavy infantry units here and here. And then for spearmen, you actually get a few more, but it's not that many. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get 5 sets of spearmen, of the spearmen, excuse me. And then here's, you get 1 general with its 3 bodyguards. So that right there is the big difference. So that's a bad difference between the two. But what's really cool about this version, is I'm going to talk to in a few minutes, is the fact that the Art of Tactic variant of this game is just completely phenomenal. I mean, if you really want to experience some very good depth, some tactical decision making, if you want a different type of play, this is it. This is where you want to go. This Art of Tactic set variant, it is just amazing. You're literally playing, you're making decisions, you're writing stuff down on cards, it's going on simultaneously. There's no card drawing, and you can manipulate your military in whichever way you want. And then of course you're limited to your ability to act based on different variants. The Art of Tactic comes with the regular set of rules, and it's got an intermediate set of rules, and then it's got an advanced set of rules, and then an expert set of rules. So that right there is just pretty foundational. So let's go ahead and I guess we can talk about the Command and Colors versions of both of these real quick. Let's grab the rule books here. So here's the old version of this game, and let's pull up a card. The other one, let's see if we can find any major discrepancies here or differences. So let's look real quick. Right there. Alright, so the Ashigaru Infantry Spearmen, it's 4. They can move up 1 in battle or 2 in not battle, 3 die, and then retreat 1 honor and fortune for each unit that retreats. Let's look at the GMT version. I think it's the same. Up to 2 hexes, no battle if they move 2. Okay, so that's the same. 3 combat dice, and then 1 honor and fortune, and they can ignore 1 sword from the lower rank. So I think that's a big change. I don't remember this version of the GMT actually ignoring swords. I know it ignores flags, but I don't think it ignores swords. I would have to actually dig into the rules a little bit. So by doing a quick comparison, they look to be both fairly the same. So that's kind of neat. So yep, let me focus on this real quick. So the first thing you're gonna notice about the old version of this is that every one of these figures you have to put together. That might be something that some of you might be excited about. Every one of these figures comes in sprues, which you have to cut, and I use very fine clippers to do that. And then you actually put them together. Now you don't; these are snap tight. However, you can use super glue to try to make sure that they stick and they don't move. However, the problem with these is that they're not easy to maneuver. So when you start playing the game, you notice that they always tip over. They're not very well balanced, so you'll spend a lot of time actually putting these upright. And then of course, storage solution for these are very challenging. I've got a couple already with the broken spear tips, and it just as hard as I tried to keep them from breaking, unfortunately it just happens. These flags are also very gentle, and they do break very easily as well. However, the people that designed this game were very kind enough to include additional flags. So this does come with additional flag sets because you're definitely going to need them. So that's a big one for that. Every one of these is just, but these are beautiful. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I used to just love setting up this game. Just set it up just to look at it. And then maybe we play a game and then put it away. But these are just really gorgeous figures. The amount of detail they put into these, it is just amazing. Let's get a zoom in right there. That right there is a general, and he's got his 3 bodyguards. I mean, the level of detail into these. You can see one's kneeling down. Another one is over there beating on that drum. And then you've got another bodyguard right there who I guess felt like he needed to fan him a little bit. And, you know, these are just awesome. You can really get into depth in these. You can paint the bases out if you're really into models and miniatures. I mean, there's some people out there on YouTube that just have they've put together some beautiful armies, and I've seen their videos, and you can tell that they took a lot of care into putting their armies together. Here's one for the cavalry, for example. Here's a cavalry unit. You can just see how, you can see the level of detail in that. I mean, even the way that their hands are placed. See if we can zoom in right there. Yeah, that's a little better. I mean, you just look at that. That is just wow, right? So this version of the game does not use victory banners, unlike the GMT. What happens is that the unit with the banner on it, with the symbol banner, is the last one to go. So when this individual is killed, you just collect you collect the entire figure, and that's how you keep track of your victory banners. Another thing that's cool about this game, both the pistol unit and the archer units, when you play the Art of Tactic version, they actually come with these arrows that are removed. This game is very realistic, and it actually even allows you to plan for ammunition. Every time that these units fire, in the Art of Tactic variant, you actually lose one of these. When you run out of ammunition, you have to give your unit a special order for them to refit for continued combat operations. As far as the terrain, they look slightly different. Here's one for the older version versus the new version. You can see that they look different. You can tell the artwork. This is more colorful. This one, I guess they were going for more of a realistic look. And then when putting them together, I found out that they don't necessarily fit. And I was too bad about that because I really wanted these to be the same. I was hoping they were the same, and the reason why is because I wanted to use these. I wanted to bring these over and use on my Command and Colors GMT version. What I was going to do is I was going to take this and then just put a random tile on here and then put this on top. But I mean, unfortunately, they're not necessarily the right fit, so I don't think I'm going to be using these. Now, I'm sure that you can probably buy these somewhere on the internet, and I think they're made out of wood, and they allow you to elevate the terrain when you're playing. But if you're playing this version, these are cool because you can stack these out. You can make hilltops. These are interchangeable. You can make like a hilltop. You can put them on top of each other and just add depthness to the terrain, which just gives it a really neat look to do that. Let's see here. Here's what a mountain, here's what a hill looks like on this one. And here's one for the GMT version. So you can see these are definitely more colorful than these. So that's kind of neat right there. That's the big major difference. Let's see the dice. Let's talk about the dice real quick. So the dice, big improvement on the GMT side. You can tell that they've been in laser engraved. However, the Zvezda version of this, I remember having to sticker these on there. Now you can tell by looking at it that it's they're starting to wear out a little bit. See that kind of ring around there? That's the sticker wearing out. But they're still good dice, but these just look so much more beautiful. This is the one for the Honor and Fortune. Here's one for the swords. The difference in that, you know, the dots look fairly the same. This are the retreat flags. Here's the variation of those two. The Honor and Fortune tokens look like this. Here's one for the Zvezda, and then here's one for the GMT. So on the back of the GMT, it just says Honor and Fortune, which I don't necessarily think that was necessary. I think they could have done fine just with this. I think everybody would have known that, but I guess for somebody that's never played it, I guess it was helpful to have Honor and Fortune on there. The Zvezda, you can see a lot of them are offset, which I thought was kind of weird when they put these. They're not necessarily centered on the chit itself. And another thing that I found unusual about the Zvezda, nobody ever really came up and said anything, that the back of every one of these Honor and Fortune has a actual represent a unit. Like here's a leader, here's a square, a circle, triangle. I think this is maybe the big general. I don't know I don't know what the point of that was. I don't remember. I remember reading the rules and it didn't specify why they had these on the back. But if anybody does, leave a comment, please. I'm curious. Another difference on this version comes with 6 of these 20-sided die. Now, when I start talking about the Art of Tactic version, you'll see that each one of these die, each unit rolls a die. So that's another major difference between the two. The Art of Tactic takes into consideration each unit. For example, the Command and Colors version does not. If you have these 4 spearmen army, they're gonna roll the same combat die regardless of how many units are left. 1 versus 4, they all roll the same. The Zvezda Art of Tactic variation changes. It's 1 per, so you can have a unit of 5. For example, here you have, for the Art of Tactic version, this is your heavy infantry. You need 5 heavy infantry equal 1 unit, so you get 5 combat die. But if you also have a leader here, if you happen to have a samurai leader, he would go on this. He would go here, and now this unit now rolls 6 die. So that's the big difference on that. That's why every one of these has a spot open, so that you can have an actual leader present. So that's another neat thing. The cards themselves are actually the same. I think these were more paperish. I never did enjoy the thinness of these cards. I wish they would have been a little more plastic coated, which I think I kind of had the same, not necessarily complaint, but the same observation with the GMT, which is why I went ahead and bought card covers. I didn't want to damage these cards the way I didn't want to damage these cards the way I did my old cards. So I put these on here, and as you can see the difference, there's a slight size difference in them. Not much, but enough to be noticeable. I went over the count, and I believe that they're both 60. No change there. And then the dragon cards are both, I believe they're both 30. Now, I didn't actually go through here and look at every one of these, but just kind of just looking at them briefly, I didn't notice any major differences in as far as the dragon cards. They both still add a nice flavor. But one thing I did notice, there was a couple of dragon cards that had 4 count on them as far as to use. I didn't see anything in here higher than a 3, so I'm kind of curious to, once I start playing this a little more, I might be able to catch a difference. But another thing that comes with this game, it gives you these 2 cards that you don't really need, but these are used for you. Each opponent gets one, player gets one, and you can put your eliminated figures with the standard on here so you can track your victories. But that's not really necessary, but I mean, it did come with that. So you just got to remember to pull those out when you play. So these markers, right? So these markers actually come with this game. These are erase markers, and these are actual plastic coated cards. Now you have one for each army, and then you take these and you split them in half, and then each player gets his cards. These were designed for you to write on because there's a lot of neat stuff that you have to do for the Art of Tactic version, and I'll explain this in a few minutes. But this marker is intended for you to write your orders, and then you follow an order sequence and you start executing your armies on this, which is something that's pretty cool, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Let me see what else before we can get into the rules. So that's basically it right here. As you can see, that big major difference with how many units you get. So if you want something that's, if you want more units, more scenarios, this is definitely the way to go. This is the way to go. Very fun. I love this game. I vouch by this one. This is definitely my to-go-to of all the GMTs. Richard Borg series. I love this one, and Napoleonics. Actually, I kind of like all of them, so I guess I can't really make up my mind. This, beautiful. If you want something that's just overly gorgeous looking, you want to take some time, you want to put some more time into these, to just, you can paint the bases, you can do all kinds of things. Definitely go with this. But also, I would definitely buy this version if you want a very in-depth experience with the Art of Tactic. So let me just go over this really fast, because I want everybody to kind of have an understanding of what the Art of Tactic is. It is, to my understanding, this is not the first time that they've done Art of Tactic. Zvezda is a miniatures company, if I'm correct, and they've done actual World War II games that use the same Art of Tactic rule set. Let me get this camera going here. Okay. So this is an in-depth rule. If you're gonna dive into this, give yourself some time to understand it, because it does go into a lot of these. Each unit has a different characteristics. So as you can see here, you have the unit types and the symbols. Each unit has a different attack value. Using the 20-sided die, your attack, for you to score a hit, you have to go lower than the number. So the higher the number, the more likely you are to inflict damage. For example, this is a spear unit, right? This spear unit takes into account that when it's fighting other infantry, you have to get a 4 or lower to get a hit. However, this is more realistic because it knows that when you're fighting a cavalry unit, you need a 6 or lower to hit, meaning that these gigantic spears were actually better used against cavalry charges. But this even goes further. There's a modifier. If you give this unit the order to do an all-round defense, which is more like, I guess, what a square would be if you were playing Napoleonics, it actually increases the attack value of this. So instead of a 6, I think it gives it a +2. Let me see if I can find it here. I gotta see which one is which, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. And then of course here it takes into account that each cavalry unit is equal to 3 die, gets 3 die, and then it has range charts. So here's the attack value. So here is considered melee. You can't fire ranged weapons here. So if you're gonna have 2 units away, it's 5 or less, 4 or less, 3 or less, 2, 2. So this takes into account that the further the target, the less likely you're gonna hit based on the die, but you still roll 1 die per unit. So that doesn't change. This uses armor, and it takes armor into account, and it allows you to actually minimize that certain damage are taken out. It has a zone of control, which is something that's unusual. It utilizes unit commanders. It does use, let me see here, that's the movement flow. It has a defense zone. It talks about melee attacks. Flank and rear attacks are different combat values. So this takes into account that if you're engaged in a front combat and then somebody comes in and attacks your flank, you know, they're going to get a combat value. They're going to get an increased combat value. So you have to, so the way the units are facing on the Art of Tactic variant matter. Here it talks about line of sight examples. It talks about the archers. Okay. It talks about ammunition. It explains how ammunition works in range attacks. And it goes into orders. This is what's really cool, right? Orders. So you have defensive orders. You have an all-round defense, which increases your defense value, right? But it says cavalry units cannot be issued the all-around defense order, and it gives you an example. This order prepares a unit to defend itself against enemies from all directions. This unit does not have any flank or rear sides, and no attacker receives those bonuses. Even if they assault it from any direction, this unit is not facing. All right, so that's. But remember, you're doing this. You and your opponent are issuing orders at the same time. So you might issue an all-round defense order on one unit, and it might never get attacked. So you don't know what your opponent's going to do because you kind of reveal the cards at the same time. You follow a certain set. This is a defense. All right, so this allows you. This is just I think this is just your front and your two flanks. Let me see here. This order tells a unit to defend part of the battlefield. If you give this order to a unit with a ranged weapon, you must write the maximum range that they will fire. So you can even defend part of the battlefield with your ranged weapons. That allows you to do that. Here it talks about fire and retreat. You know, if you played Medieval, Command and Colors Medieval, there was a couple of special cards so you can do a fire and then retreat. I think it was the bow units that can do that. Range combat orders. You can fire range weapons. I don't know if you can see that right there. And then here's some movement orders. Here's an assault. Here's a forced march. Move and fire. Yeah, see, you heard that. That's probably a couple of pieces that fell. Here's a retreat order. Here's a run order. And then you have special orders. Special orders can only be done when you have a leader in your stack, right? Here's an ambush. Join up. This allows you to combine 2 damaged units. You know that we've never been able to do that, right? You've never been able. None of the command colors games allow you to join units if you have two units that are hurt. But this, the Art of Tactic allows you to do that as long as you have a leader in your sprue. And by a leader, I mean that you have an actual leader in that spare section of that unit. Here's another that you can only do with the leader is receive supplies. That's what we talked about earlier. And then of course here's the description of the woods. Description of all the terrain and how it impacts the game. Another thing here is there's 2 types of slopes. There's a gentle and abrupt slope. So a gentle slope is 1 hill tile, while the other slope is a 2 hill tile. Two hill tile, and then it gives limitations on what a unit can and cannot do. But there's more to that coming up. All right, so once you understand that, you can play, right? And then you have intermediate rules. Intermediate rules utilize fortitude and morale and fortitude take into effect. And everything that you do impacts morale and fortitude. Like before you do anything, you have to do a fortitude test, and you have to make sure that your army is willing to follow your orders, and then you have to check its morale. When you fail these, you start to take penalties, and these penalties actually go against you. Flank assaults impact morale and fortitude. Rear assaults get impacted. Commander abilities add certain levels of that. So I'm telling you, the Art of Tactic version of this game is just amazing. This is where these let me see here. You can be put to fight. Let me see range combat examples. Here's what happens if you fail a fortitude test. If you fail a fortitude test, if the unit was at normal morale, it is now hesitant, shaken, panic, and out, routes, and surrenders. Unit morale. Morale is 0 morale markers. If you're hesitant, you have 1 morale marker. Shaken 2, Panic 3. And that's what these were for. Let me grab these real quick. And the game comes with a lot of these. I don't know if you can see them. And they're kind of cool because they actually fit on top of the flags. Ta-da! They actually fit there, so you can actually put these on there. And that's how you can tell if a particular unit is... So you can see this better. So you can actually tell if a unit is shaken, or you can see them around the honor on the unit. Okay. Let's see, where were we? Okay, so then it continuing on with the rules, right? And then you have these right here. And then it gives you and then here are the advanced rules. It talks about some other modifiers. Here's the advanced rules right here. Terrain modifiers, right? So the terrain modifies the defense and the attack and the firepower. Very neat stuff. But then if you even want to go further, there's an expert rules, which takes fatigue. So now your units get fatigued, right? So if you attack, you get a -1 fatigue points. Unit ability 2 or 3, defense, fortitude, firepower. So now you're counting fatigue, and depending on what your unit is doing, it gets fatigued. Yeah. So this is, once again, just to recap, this is very in-depth. So if you're looking for a challenge, and as far as gaming is concerned, you can definitely try this out. But I think that's it. Here's real quick. It comes with a lot of these, so you got to have some really good storage options to store these bad boys. So that's it. That's the big comparisons between the two versions. I hope that everybody had a chance to kind of take account into what you want to do. You know, I love both of these versions. I think I love the Art of Tactic because of the depthness, and if I really want to get a good solid war game in, you can definitely do that with here. And then it gives you the ability to kind of just do simultaneous fighting. There's not a card driven, and it's just really you and your skills and being able to try to understand and forecast what your opponent is doing with the using of these cards. There's a lot of stuff on here. I mean, you gotta reference these a lot. That's where you write the orders on there. You write down the block that you're in to the block that you're moving. And if you're going more, you can add an additional on here. And then these are all the modifiers that you get. Leader's presence takes, you know, the direction in which you're phasing and which way you're getting attacked. All that stuff adds, and it modifies your attack and your attack value and your defense value. So this is your attack value against infantry, attack value against cavalry, and this is your defense value. As you can see, your defense value is modified by leader +1, and then -1, -2. I think this is one of these is a forced march, one of these is a run, and then I gotta look at this. But yeah, so all this actually modifies how your defense is. This is your fortitude checks, I believe. And then you're able to write that on there and then just go at it. So that's kind of neat about this. So that's it, folks. I hope everybody got a chance to enjoy this. So if you get a chance to buy this, I definitely recommend it, just because it's a fun game to have. And the Art of Tactic is variant is really cool. And then, of course, the GMT, 40 scenarios. That is just one army right there. So you can play and you can just have a good time. Oh, and I forgot to mention these little numbers right here. This is the Zvezda board that I had set up. That's how you can figure out where your units are at. So this is a 301. So you would write 301 and then 287 to say that your unit's going to go from 301 to 287. And then next to the end of the card, you write down if it's what it's going to do, if it's attacking, if it's moving, if it's defending in place, and so on and so on. So that's it, folks. So I bid farewell. So I might do a couple of session reports on this game and just kind of give you my more thoughts as far as how this gameplay is. And if I can find someone, I'll do an Art of Tactic demo as well. But I haven't decided yet. If y'all enjoy this or it's something you want to see in particular, please leave your comments below, and do the best I can to facilitate. So once again, this is Tabletop Warrior bidding everybody farewell. Happy gaming, and over and out.